The honorable participant, we will continue the last session of today's seminar with the topic portable catamaran drone, type of technology used to take microplastic sample in the water, which will be delivered by Arthur Solich, PhD.
Hadirin sekalian, kami akan melanjutkan sesi terakhir pada seminar hari ini dengan topik portable catamaran drone, jenis teknologi yang digunakan untuk mengambil sampel mikroplastik di dalam air, yang akan disampaikan oleh Arthur Solich, PhD.
The last session will be led by the previous moderator.
Untuk sesi terakhir pada seminar akan dipandu oleh moderator sebelumnya.
To make the time effective, we strongly invite again Aulia Hak Yulki Yuli Alfaini to guide the last session of the seminar.
Untuk mengefisiensikan waktu, kami langsung mengundang kembali Saudari Aulia Hak Yulki Yuli Alfaini untuk memandu sesi terakhir seminar.
We will be handing over the last session of the seminar to the moderator.
Selanjutnya, kami akan sepenuhnya menyerahkan sesi terakhir seminar kepada moderator.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the International Seminar of Environmental Health with the theme Countermeasures of Microplastic Waste in the Era of Society 5.0. Thank you for the dearest participants who are still joining with us. We have last session of the seminar. So right now we have our last speaker, Dr. Arthur Solich. He will presenting about portable catamaran drone, type of technology used to take microplastic samples in the water. Dr. Arthur Solich, are you with me?
Yes, thank you for the introduction.
Okay.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I hope you are doing well as well. I've seen your previous presentation, so I think it's quite a nice event.
Yeah, I'm good too. Thank you. Great to hear that. Okay. All right. Before presenting your work, I'd like to read your profile first. So, Dr. Arthur Solich is the postdoctoral researcher in the Department of Engineering Cybernetics, Norwegian University of Science and Technology. With a background in robotics and aircraft engineering and over a decade of professional experience, he is successfully merging academic research with hands-on engineering. He's designed and developed tailor-made, state-of-the-art system which support interdisciplinary research, proof, fieldwork, and data acquisition. His key interests are novel concepts created for challenging environments, utilizing the potential of unmanned technologies. His previous work includes solutions based on unmanned aerial vehicle or UAVs, aka drones, unmanned surface vehicles or USVs, Arctic boats, and various embedded systems. Following his interest and research outcome, scalability, he is currently exploring a path toward a combination of academic career and entrepreneurship. So I'd like to give a quick reminder for all the audiences. If you have questions, you can ask your questions by type the questions on the link that have provided by the committee, and I'll read the questions for you in the discussion session later. All right, Dr. Arthur, are you ready with your presentations?
Yes, thank you. Let me just share my screen. If I can have access to share my screen,
Okay.
It will be great.
Okay, go ahead. You have 30 minutes to present your work, so the time is yours.
Yes. Yes, I will just need access to screen sharing.
Okay, please wait a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Can you try again?
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, just give me a second. And now you should see my presentation. Please let me know if it's visible.
Yes, it is visible. It's really clear.
Thank you very much. Yes, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today. And I would like to talk and present you our portable catamaran drones. So the vehicles you see on this picture, and this is a project I realize I do at my university. Together with a colleague of mine, Andrea Faltinkova. As mentioned, I'm focusing on the technology development, on new vehicles, new concept development, while Andrea is directly working with analysis of microplastic and finding new and better ways how to detect, monitor the microplastics particles in the environment. And to give you a bit more of a context, I will be talking mainly about the technology, mainly about the technology that will be used, or is hopefully will be used in years to come. So I was working with building devices that work from the Arctic to basically to an equator, autonomous buoys, autonomous mobile vehicles, and I use this experience to work toward helping to scale up sampling and analysis of the microplastics in the environment. So the focus of this presentation will be on a certain level of technology development. When we develop a technology, we move from academia to industry. We start from just the basic ideas on the low technology readiness levels, and then go into and then move forward, develop the technology toward market-ready products. So we are today in the middle. We are talking about the technology which is not yet on the market. It may be there in next few years. There is a lot of prototyping, a lot of tests being happen. So I wanted to make it clear in the beginning of this presentation. So we are moving into the future. And when we speak about plastic pollutant environments, that's what we usually have in mind. Those are the photos taken by colleagues of mine last week in other parts of the world, where basically this is what people expect when we talk about the plastic problem. What people don't expect when we talk about the plastic problem is to see views like this. This is an archipelago in Norway called Mausund. Looks like a very nice picture of a nice, basic, interesting place to live. Or pictures like this, which is a cliff of Runde, which is an extremely important habitat for birds in Norway. And believe me or not, but in these places we are facing a very heavy plastic pollution, which is not visible maybe directly, it's not visible on postcards. But when you go beyond people normal activities, places where people normally, usually try to clear their environment, you will see a huge amount of plastic thrown into coast, a lot of small plastic particles in the water, which of course affects us humans, like it was mentioned in the previous presentations. But also, so this is, for example, to give you an idea, this is an amount of trash collected by volunteers like within a few months, and this is a repeated process. So the trash are collected into huge bags and then disposed. So this happens, but it's a huge archipelago. There is a limited number of people. Not everything can be clean. And then when you look at the wildlife, birds nesting, for example, at Runde or in other regions, like started using plastics as their nests, building material. So, as you see, in our region, the plastic pollution is an issue, and plastic pollution, of course, then leads to microplastics pollution, because in the marine environment, the big material breaks and split into smaller and smaller chips. And of course, ocean is huge. It's really hard to sample or verify what's happening. So we are working on. We try to address the problem in two ways. First of all, we would like to scale up sampling. So we would like to make some collecting samples of microplastics from the water, from the ocean, from the lakes, from rivers, quicker, cheaper, easier. Then we also want to scale up analysis. As Scott mentioned on the previous presentation, the cost of analysis of a single sample, maybe in hundreds or even $1,000s. So we also, especially Andrea, works on how to make it easier, quicker, cheaper, and those are the topics I will present to you today. So first of all, how do we sample for microplastics in the water? For this, we use a device called Manta Troll. And as you see on the photos, this is like a metal frame, which is attached to a vehicle that tows it, to which a net is attached. And this net has a certain mesh size. In our research, we focus on 300 micrometer mesh size, although we use the vehicle also with smaller values like 120 micrometer. But as Scott mentioned, well, we lose a lot of small particles. This is a drawback of this method, which we are aware of. However, sometimes it's better to have lower quality sample in higher number and use statistics to estimate lower concentrations than to not have sample at all. And manta nets, manta trolls comes from different shapes and sizes. They are available on the market, and many scientists build their own meshes for their own purpose. For example, limiting the cost of it. An important item which is connected to the manta net is this. In the middle of the inlet you can see this white device. I'm not entirely sure if you see my pointer, which is a flow meter, because we are not only interested in collecting a sample, but we are also interested in knowing what was the volume of water the material was collected in. So we need to know, we know the area of the inlet. With having the flow meter, we know what was the distance we traveled, so we can measure the volume of water in liters that was processed. This is how it looks on a photo. So a net is towed behind and it's usually a big vessel. Then the sample is collected in the cot end on the picture on the right. And this sample from the code end is then transferred to laboratory equipment and analyzed. And I will talk briefly about it as well. As you see, if you have one net, one vessel, or one motorboat towing it, it doesn't really scale too much. The sampling process takes around 30 minutes. Net have to go very slowly in the water column, for example, with a speed of 1 meter per second. So it puts a significant constraint on the speed, on the time. If we use a big vessel, it's also the fuel consumption. Well, maybe it's also a fuel consumption. And then if we use the vehicle, if we use the net close to the big vessel, well, it's towed. So the water column is not in perfect shape. It's already mixed. So it also impacts the sample. So an anecdote my colleague Andrea is saying is that she often finds a paint from the hull of the boat in the net. So those are the things we wanted to address with new technology. And we decided to use my field, which are unmanned vehicles. So we thought, let's do autonomous microplastic sampler, a big concept where we have these manta nets, which are equipped with own propulsion or navigation. They are light, so we can deliver wherever using a drone. And this was the initial idea. So we started working on it. Why? What are the benefits of using robots, of using autonomous vehicles for this type of activity? First of all, the robots have propulsion, they have own thrusters, so they do not require a boat to tow the net. They are the boats themselves. Then, because we equip them in autopilot, they can follow a path and don't require a constant researcher supervision. If you don't need to look at your robot all the time, you can send 5 robots at the same time. Also, we can recover and deploy in the new methods using flying vehicles or other ways. So it's small, it's light, so it enables things that are not currently available. It allows us to sample areas where boat use isn't possible. This is we look into electric propulsion, so we can move to, for example, some protected lakes. We have very small environmental impact. We can take it on foot on our back and hike to the mountains. Samples are less affected or are not affected by the boat hull because we can put a net in front of the robot, and as I mentioned, multiple robot can survey larger area at once, and that's how we get scalability that is not possible in the current method. And on the photo on the right, you can, for example, see a screen of all the paths, all the tests we did it was August in Runde. It took 4 days, and there is, I think, 30 paths, and you see how repeatable it is. So you really can sample in the same location at different times, at different tides, at a different sea state. So we are limiting number of variables in the sampling process as well. And what we work with in the beginning, we said, of course, like when we have an idea, you want to test it simply and cheaply. So really, our first robot, as you see on the photo, was really created all of the pipes you use, in the plumbing system of houses, with some remote control thrusters, just to see if this idea works. So what we did, we gave the robot to the students. We asked them, please test it for a week. Let us know what your thoughts, how to make it better. And with their help, we were able to establish the baseline, what we wanted. We want a simple design. We want a clever component selection, so they are cheap, available, well, cheap, as electronic can be, let's say, right? Affordable, maybe that's a better word. We wanted to have a battery replacement system, which was super important, so we can, run one sample, replace the battery, go another go, and basically sample all day with many robots. But, well, of course, solving one issue creates a new issue. Right now, right now the code ends, like they are prepared to be collect one sample, few samples a day. So they are not made to like quickly transfer particles into the laboratory equipment. So we had to make our own sample management system. We wanted to be cost efficient. And also one of new thing that came out was, well, we don't need the boat, so we can deploy the robot from a shore, but maybe not necessarily we want to collect a sample at the shore. So we would like some way of closing and opening the water inlet. That's how we made the current version of the robot. So as you can see, it changed quite a bit. So now it's a catamaran. It has two compartments on top of it. One is electronics, basically, which is closed and there is no access to it. Second box is a battery box where we can just swap the battery. It's possible to operate it, for example, in the rain, which is an issue in Norway. So we don't have to be afraid of damaging some electronics or something. For example, we decided to use power drill batteries, which are available on the market because they are certified, they are available, they are affordable, and also you are able to take it to a plane. So I'm not sure if you are familiar with it, but if you need to travel to remote regions of the world, you quite often take a plane, and there are some certain limitations on the type of battery you can take. So those are the things we try to limit. There is a lot of tiny details we try to address with our vehicle. This unit is equipped with autopilot, so it can navigate on waypoints that user write into the vehicle before the mission. It can be controlled also manually on a short distance using a tablet. And there are some other features I will be talking on during this presentation. So this is to give you a better overview of a stationary vehicle. As I mentioned, there is the net itself with a cot end, so the place where the sample is collected, which we made specifically for this design. The vehicle is powered with two thrusters, one of it on each side, so it can control its direction and speed. Then we have an inlet, which has a flow meter in it, exactly the same as in the nets I showed in the beginning. Then there is a box with control electronics, the box with battery box and satellite tracker, and as mentioned, the actuated inlet. So we're wondering how to make the water inlet closing and opening, and we said that the easiest way to close the water inlet is basically to lift it above the water. So there is an actuated arm that basically rotates the inlet, so you can move it up and you can put it down in the water. So you decide where you sample. There is also one more feature we put into the vehicle. You see it on the photo on the right. We are able to mount the inlet on different depths. Usually we want to get only the top, but for some applications which also use the plankton net, the manta net, they, for example, want to have the net 10 to like half a meter under the water for some parasites monitoring and other biology research. So we have this option, and we are also able to mount the inlet both vertically and horizontally. So whether we want to sample wide or deep, it's not a big difference, but the ratio is like 2.1. So for some, it makes a difference. So then regarding the flow meter, this is a traditional way of monitoring the amount of water that passed through the sample, but it requires also some manual labor, and it's prone to errors. We can write it down a wrong number on the beginning or in the end of sampling. So in addition, what we are looking into is using the autopilot data, because it has a GPS. It knows its location using the satellite navigation system. So we are able, based on this data, calculate what's the distance. And the early tests we have are quite show good match between the typical traditional flow meter data and autopilot. Of course, we need to take into account that there can be a water current. It's especially relevant during tides and, for example, on the rivers. But those are the things we are able to address by clever design of a path or with some algorithms we are looking into. Now let me talk about code end, the custom code end that we did. As I mentioned, when you solve one problem, you create a new problem. So we wanted to, we had more samples now, we can have more robot. Every turnaround time of the robot is 3 minutes. So you get the robot on the shore and you're ready to start taking another sample in 3 minutes. So we needed a quick way of replacing the code and in the end of the net. This is a photo actually from Mausund, from this archipelago I showed in the beginning, and in one of the runs, we actually find a plastic line in the vast open ocean. So this also is a good example about the pollution. And going back to content, this video shows how this sample is removed. So as you see, it takes just a few seconds to remove to undo the ring that holds the stainless steel filter. Then we transfer it into a glass jar and cover it with a silicone cover on top. Then we mount another filter, replace the battery, the system boots, and in total, like in 3 minutes after the system boots, we are ready to go again. So what the sample content, what the filter content? Well, that's what we can expect. We can expect a mix of organic matter, a mix of minerals, a mix of plastic or other type of material. So then we need to go into processing phase and sample analysis phase. And this is a field where my colleague Andrea specializes. So first the sample can be, there are two ways. Or you can process the sample directly in the filter, or we can transfer it as on this photo to a laboratory equipment, and then we try to dissolve the organic matter using chemical material, like for example hydrogen peroxide, like some oxidants. And then after this process can take quite some time, but we can do multiple samples at once. And then all this is transferred to a fiberglass filter, which is shown on the photo to the far right. That's how the ready sample to be analyzed look like. And as Scott mentioned on the previous presentation, again, both equipment and the typical methodology, which is the technical methods which are used to analyze the microplastic sampling, the microplastic samples, they are both time-consuming and expensive. So Andrea is looking into the future and trying some alternative ways which are not yet used. And her key focus is on using hyperspectral imaging. And the photo you see right now on the slide is a portion of a hyperspectral image made so people can see it, but all the information in this image are actually invisible to a human eye. So when we have a sample right now in the current typical traditional methods, what we need to do is basically take each particle we identify as microplastic and analyze it in the Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy. As mentioned before, this process can take a huge amount of time, like almost maybe even a day for a filter like this of 9 centimeter diameter. There are quicker ways. There are more expensive tools like FPA, FTR, but then they are, first of all, very expensive tools. Not many universities have access to it. And the second thing is analysis of 1.2 centimeter filter can take up to 7 hours. And of course, this is a great tool, and it gives you a huge accuracy, and it gives you a huge resolution. So we are able to identify super small particles. But again, if we now go and after one day we have using a affordable robot, we are able to collect 8, 10, maybe 30 samples. We need a way to analyze it quickly, more roughly and quickly. And MantaNet itself, it kind of let small particles go through. So we can look into method which is like on the same level of accuracy of the sample. So then you can use the hyperspectral imaging camera, which allows to scan, to analyze the 9 centimeter sample in 5 minutes. So you see the time benefit. We lose a bit on accuracy, we lose on the size of particles we can look, but then we can really scale up analysis and use statistics to estimate the levels of smaller particles. And to give you a slightly more explanation on what hyperspectral imaging is, like we see a certain word in a certain way. A human eye see the word in a certain way. And when you take a camera, you have red, green, and blue channels that record only this color. Hyperspectral camera is a camera that don't have red, green, and blue, but it has, for example, 1,000 colors. It detects a very tiny differences. And then you are able to make, looking at the image, you are able to make a graph which is like a spectral signature, like a fingerprint of a thing you look at, especially the materials which are repeatable, right? So this is what hyperspectral camera is. What is the key? Different type of plastics has a slightly different colors, let's say. They have a slightly different spectral signature. So by looking at the shape of what's their hypercolor, we are able to say what type of material is it. So then, if we build a database, if you take particles from plastics, you know exactly what they are. You are able to build a statistical model. What is their footprint on the graph? And then you are able to test your model with new images to detect, okay, what are the particles, what they contain, what are their sizes, shapes. You can automatically, using the image processing, detect a lot of features quite easily. And it's a work in progress. It's actually the topic of a PhD of she's doing. So she also looking in the accuracy of size estimation. She looks into detection limits. What are the smallest particles that can be detected using this method, and what is and then try to validate it, for example, between plastics that are in a database to see how the system behaves, how it's being performance. I believe I just see the message that I should conclude my presentation quite quickly. Please let me know if it's correct, that I should be wrapping up the presentation right now. Can you confirm, please?
Excuse me, can you repeat again?
Yes, I received an email on chat that I should be wrapping my presentation right now, and just please let me know if it's correct.
Yeah, it's right.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So as you see, those are the things we are working on. Those are the technologies we are investigating. So our idea is to collect as many sample as we can to better monitor our environment, and then be able to get better knowledge and better understanding what's the pollution type, how severe it is, and then we can look into methods to actually try to mitigate the risk and protect our environment and life of both human but also the animals in our region. So thank you for your attention. In case you are interested in our work, please feel free to contact us on the emails provided in the on the slide, and let us know, let others know about the robot. Maybe they would like to use it in the research or activities. So thank you very much for the invitation. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
All right. Thank you very much for your explanation. It's really interesting to know that technology regarding microplastic. I think it is still being uncommon things, especially in Indonesia. So in the future, it will be very beneficial. So before we next to the next session, I noticed that you wear our traditional batik, right? Isn't it?
Well, it's not it, but I tried to use it because I visited Indonesia in 2010 and I really like it.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Dr. Arthur. So now we're going to move to the question and answer session. So we have several questions today. The first questions comes from Lutfia and Adia from Bandung House Polytechnic, and the questions is how to use in its fast-flowing waters or high-pressure water or lots of waves like some areas in Indonesia, and what is the max knots?
Yes. So when you sample using plankton net, unfortunately, you need to be slow. You cannot make a lot of pressure in the net. So the maximum speed of the net is, for example, 1.5 meter per second, which is 3 knots. Our robot moves a bit slower. We usually go around 1.52 knots. But again, this is a speed in the water column. So if the water is moving, you can what you want to do is just create a move against the water. So for example, a robot can look like it's going backward, but it's going like in front of the water. So this is one of the way. However, if it's really like a mountain river or like really fast flowing somewhere where it's not feasible to use for example, such robots, then there are different ways, like pumps, for example, that were shown in the previous presentation. So this technology is more designed to lakes, more designed to ocean, which is around us. A river, for some, yes, it may work. For example, you can make it run with the current. But for really mountain rivers, very high flow rivers, there are some areas where this solution will not be applicable and pumps may be better.
All right, thank you for the answers. And we're going to the next questions, and it comes from Sausan for Polytechnic Pontianak. And the questions is, does the portable catamaran drone has any drawbacks that prevent it from working when used? And how do you usually solve the problem?
Yes. So as you saw, the current shape of the vehicle is a result of the first design. So the first design showed the issues. For example, we would like to open and close be able to open and close the inlet. So the new design addresses, and of course it's still a prototype. We are still working on, for example, like it use 3D printed elements, which are plastic themselves, right? So maybe this is a thing to look into, maybe to make the design a bit better. Then for example, a kelp is an issue. So we solve the thruster. It requires the thrusters to freely move. In Norway, we few times encountered that it's stuck in kelp, but we were able to recover without the boat assistant. However, like in Ghana right now, like last week, we faced that it's stuck on plastic bags that were in the water. Also, like in our region, the water is quite well. There is no like obstacles in the water. In some regions, there is like pipes coming out of, or poles coming out of the water, so it's hard to navigate autonomously. We need to use the manual control. So there are ways to improve. Right now, this solution solve a lot of current problems, but when you solve one problem, you create another one. So we expect that the solution will be developing. We expect new features and addressing the issues that will arise in the future. We will know them while we are using the equipment on a broader range.
All right, thank you very much. And we have another question. It comes from Diego from University of Erlangen, and the question is: in the future, from the portable catamaran drone itself, what do you want to develop further?
Yes, so we are now quite happy with current state of the vehicle. So what we look on now is to use it broadly. So we use it on a few occasions in Norway, but now we had a test in Ghana for the last 2 weeks. So we want to scale up the network. That's especially what Andrea is working on to reach to entire microplastics community globally. To see for collaborations and to expand the network and actually make really start collecting a lot of samples, start doing a lot of analysis, so we have a better mapping of the environment. Because right now we do a lot of decisions. We base a lot of decisions, a lot of policies or our actions on a very limited knowledge of how severe the problem is. So we think that mapping of the environment is the key direction to look into now.
Okay, and this is the last questions. It's come from Aline from Bandung POLYTECHNIC. Where did you get the first inspiration to make this tool?
Yes, so it's I was looking for a project, so to something to look on. I finished my previous project and wanted to use the result of it, it was about surface vehicles, and then we basically started talking. So I spoke with my supervisor, asking them, well, I like working with other disciplines, other researchers working in different fields, and they told me, well, let's speak with Andrea, and she's working on microplastic pollution. She's working on sample analysis. Maybe you can work together. And she described her problem from her field in her perspective. And I work with robots. I create robots, embedded technologies for different purposes. So I was able to address a problem. So an inspiration for the robot is directly an answer to someone else's need.
All right. Mr. Sorry, we have last questions, really have last questions. Do you think want to test catamaran drone in Indonesia?
Yes, and we actually got a few requests. I think we weren't able to address it yet because of the workflow we have, but definitely this is something that will be of our interest.
All right. As we know, in Indonesia too, we have lots of rivers, and maybe you have to do some research in Indonesia. So please come again to Indonesia, like this. Okay, thank you very much for the explanations, and we really have a new insightful from your presentations. It's really fresh for us. And okay, this is now we are going to come to the last sessions, and before that we would like to give you an appreciation to the certificate from the committee. Please screen, yeah. So we give this certificate to you, and we really thank you for it's your time to coming in this seminar, and hope you're doing well always. Okay, and we will send this later on your email. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Arthur Zalik, for the presentations, And also thank you very much for the dearest participant who have joined the seminar. That's all for me, and thank you for your attention. We'll see you soon again. Bye.
Thank you very much.
To honorable participant, the last session of the seminar has finished.
Hadirin sekalian, sesi terakhir seminar baru saja selesai.
Thank you. Hopefully it will be very beneficial for all of us.
Terima kasih, semoga materi yang disampaikan akan sangat bermanfaat bagi kita semua.
Before we continue to the seminar, we would pleasantly thank event mahasiswa 8,
Event kampus,
Gudang Lomba IND,
Haigo,
Info Event,
Lomba Gratis ID,
PRFM,
Mading Event ID,
Medbat Kolaborasi,
Poin Kampus,
Seminar Info ID. To all participants, know there will be a post test. I'll visit the link in the chat box. You can complete the post test in 10 minutes.
Acara selanjutnya akan diadakannya post test. Kepada para peserta bisa untuk mengunjungi link di kolom komentar yang akan kami bagikan. Peserta dapat mengisi post test selama 10 menit.